What Auburn did in the transfer portal this weekend, it's exactly what they needed to do.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Lindsay, Crosby of thebarnauburn.com and elsewhere, hanging out with us as he does every single Monday. And thank you to Lindsay and Daryl for holding it down for me as I went out of town this past Friday. And of course, I go out of town, Lindsay, and Auburn's like, we're going to add 20 guys. We're going to add 20 guys to the portal. And I'm so glad they did. We'll talk about some guys that are interesting in the defensive backfield, as well as the bodies being added on the defensive line. But let's start with the big men up front on the offensive side of the football. Those were pretty much everyone's big concern. Okay, love the quarterback additions. Love what they've done to the running back room. The receivers make sense. I understand some people may not love the approach, but I think most people can see the logic behind adding the USF guys. The offensive line and defensive line unanimously, Lindsay, were okay. Maybe the starters are fine, but where's the depth? Well, the depth came in this weekend, and maybe some potential starters, which will be fun to discuss. So Jacob Strand, the tackle from Oregon State, Jack Layer from Stanford, and then TJ Hedrick from Ole Miss. I think Layer from Stanford, which is not what it looks like, but I had the pronunciation texted to me. That's what they said. I think he's got a chance, and I think Strand has a chance to really open up the battle. But my biggest nitpick with the roster prior to this weekend was, okay, where is the veteran presence on this offensive line? Well, now after all of this, you have 5 seniors on the offensive line: Joe Simmons, Cole Best, Cole Skinner, Jacob Strand, and Jack Layer. That's exactly what this staff needed, Lindsay.
And they come from a variety of places, right? You didn't lean on just USF guys. You've got 2 guys on the interior in Cole and Cole, which is the start of a law firm. But Joseph Simmons coming up from James Madison as a tackle, Layer from Stanford, Strand from Oregon State. So it's a bunch of J guys and a bunch of C guys. It's fine, whatever. But the point is, you have a lot of experience there in college, combined with some good pieces you brought back, right? You brought back Kai Ellis, Jacoby Ward. You brought in some good pieces, right? Barry McWhorter as a signee. And then you added a couple underclassmen who could theoretically, you always got to say that with this current age of college football. Yeah. But Hedrick from Ole Miss is a redshirt freshman. He could have multiple seasons. Is it Stanton Ramil or Ramel? But the kid from Michigan State.
I've been saying Ramil.
Ramil, there we go. The tackle from Michigan State, he's a junior. He could have multiple seasons as well. And so you did a good job of getting veteran experience for 26, but still leaving something in the cupboard to go forward after that without having to do a full rebuild again this offseason.
Now, I want to be clear. I don't know how many of these guys are truly elite.
Right.
I think a lot of these guys were solid, and I think the solid along the depth is exciting, and it's what we asked for. I said this about corners last week. I don't know if it was with Daryl or Brad Law or whoever, but I'll say it again now. Like, I know there's not a clear cornerback 1 and cornerback 2 as we have this conversation. And there may not be a clear, left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. It may not be obvious, but I think the answer's there. When you look at the scope of this room, I think the answer, it's somewhere. Now this coaching staff has given themselves options. The best option on this roster is good enough to put them in situations to execute this offense and hopefully win football games. I'm not positive that answer was there from a depth perspective 4 days ago. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think we've learned, and if nothing else, being an Atlanta Braves fan recently, I think we've learned this. Injuries will always happen, right? You're always going to lose guys. And
especially on the O-line. Yeah.
Especially on the O-line because of the nature of what they do. And to your point, a week ago, if you took out any one person, it was a catastrophe. And now you at least have pieces and you have options. You're gonna need somebody to step up, right? Just because some of these guys are upperclassmen doesn't mean they've played a ton. I don't believe Jack Lair played last year at Stanford, unless I pulled that up wrong in PFF. Like, I don't think he got into games. But
no, but he played 742 snaps in 2024.
Yeah, the year before. And so, definitely a situation where, like, you've got guys with traits, with skill, with experience. And if you can see somebody step up, and if health is on your side, you can see a path to this being a at least average to above average offensive line, being good enough, like you said, for you to be able to execute the offense. You don't need these guys to be world beaters. This offense does scheme guys open. This offense does pitch teams on their heels with the tempo. You just need them to be good enough to give you a fighting chance.
Yeah, Lair in 2024 at Stanford, I love that he played at a bunch of different places. Played some at right tackle, played 150-something snaps at left tackle, then played 529 snaps at left guard. I love that because I think he's going to be a backup, and you want a backup who can kind of service multiple spots. I think that's nice. Yeah. Jacob Strand is interesting because, I mean, he was a left tackle at Oregon State. Didn't play a ton. Still over 350 snaps last season. Season before that, he played in 3 games for 121 snaps. I mean, he doesn't have like a full season of work,
right? But
he has several seasons of backup type snaps, which is exciting. And I think that's what he's brought in to do. And especially when the big question on this offensive line for me was Stanton Ramil. I mean, admittedly, like, I have more questions about the Ramil addition than I think most people do. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's fantastic. I hope it's like Mason Murphy. I was super down on Mason Murphy. Mason Murphy actually really wasn't a major issue with the offensive line last year. I hope that happens here. But my main concern is injuries. I mean, he's had 2 knee injuries in the span of 3 seasons. So that's always concerning. But now you bring in Strand, who's been a solid backup tackle, Jack Lair, who has played tackle and guard at a P4 level. And then, I mean, and we're not even talking about the lottery picks, right?
Joseph
the TJ Hedrick from Ole Miss, who didn't play. But a guy who was pretty sought after in the, I think he was like a top 40, was he the 45th offensive tackle on 247? I think that's what I saw. So I like that. And then obviously Ty Buster, Jacoby Ward, guys that the staff seems to like. Obviously the previous staff liked them. And then, a pretty stacked freshman class. I don't expect them to play a lot this year, but once again, I do think the answer to the test is here on the study guide, if you will.
Yeah.
The staff just has to find it.
Yeah. The one thing that I will point out, just in the interest of being fair here, on Joseph Simmons coming up from James Madison is when you go back,
I think he's a stud.
See, and they're not gospel. PFF grades tend to not think that he is fantastic. And a lot of it from last season was the highest level of opponents they faced, right? Louisville, Oregon, when he had to play those, especially on the road, right? He really struggled with the biggest schools on their schedule, right? He handled Georgia State. He handled Washington State and Coastal Carolina, but it was the Oregon game. It wasn't great against Troy, struggled against Louisville. Yeah. And so the competition question is going to be there. But at the same time, he's one of a bunch of different pieces.
They still scored a bunch of against Oregon. They scored a bunch of points.
Yeah.
Like, how are you scoring that many points against Oregon with your left tackle stinking it up? I just have a hard time, fully leaning into that. Like you said, PFF's not gospel. It's a good source. It's a good resource.
Right.
I think the most useful thing is like snaps played at certain positions, but the grades are, what they are, especially if they back up what you want to believe.
Oh, yes. Yes. If it confirms your priors, I'm all over it. I'm all over it. And against Oregon, it does look like a lot of the issue for him came down to run blocking. It feels from a lot of looking at some of these scores that he's better as a pass blocker than a run blocker, but he sometimes does struggle with elite pass rushers, looking at what Louisville did to him and things like that. But other than that, and other than that, there's a lot to work with there and a lot of experience. I think I do think the way college football is now, you are in a situation where guys that have a ton of experience and know a lot of the little tips and tricks can get by a little better than sticking somebody, especially on the offensive line, than sticking in somebody young and asking them to hold their own right away in the SEC. So I do think that veteran experience is going to help.
Yeah, I won't push back on that. I won't push back on that at all. All right, let's jump into what happened with the defensive line over the course of the weekend, because it's a similar story, and that's very, very good for Auburn. That's next, right here on Locked on Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook all playoff long. Tonight, the national championship is tonight between Indiana and Miami, and more lopsided of a line than I was expecting, Lindsay. I'm not going to lie to you. Lie to you. What is it now? It's 7.5 as we record, which is kind of crazy. Also, as we record, the New England Patriots, a 5.5-point favorite, going on the road against Jarrett Stidham and the Denver Broncos. Regardless, there will be an Auburn Tiger in the Super Bowl. Will it be Jarrett Stidham or will it be Carlton Davis representing the AFC? We will see.
Auburn gets
had
to
a pretty
hang the
good day
banner either
yesterday.
way.
Not going to lie to you. Sunday was super fun.
Yeah, Auburn gets to hang the banner either way. We get to roll tumors either way after the Super Bowl because some Auburn guy just won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
So it's going to happen.
Take that for what it's worth. The Seahawks also have Derek Hall. So we've got good odds here. Head over to FanDuel if you want to get on this action and more. With FanDuel, that's America's #1 sports book. Thank you so much for making Locked on Auburn your first listen every single day. Lindsay, holy cow. Holy cow, did Auburn beef up its defensive line with 2 additions that I really, really like. And I like them for different reasons. So they add Walter Mathis Jr. He goes by Buddy Mathis.
Love that.
And which I love. Defensive lineman named Buddy. That's great. And then Deshaun Womack, edge from Ole Miss. Let's start with Walter Mathis. Let's start with Buddy Mathis from LSU. Younger player and a guy that's going to fit in with this sophomore class of now it's Buddy Mathis, Malik Autry, Jordan Crawford, and Darian Smith. And when you look at the makeup, the core of this roster, the theme is still the sophomore class. And you lost some guys on this defensive line class that you liked. Mm-hmm. This is an awesome way to backfill this. So I tweeted this out last night, and if you missed it, that's totally okay. LSU signed 5 defensive tackles in his class, and he played more than any of them. And then, he saw snaps in the opener against Clemson for LSU last year. Talking to LSU folks, LSU did not like that they lost him. They hated to lose him was the verbiage that I was told in this conversation. And then just the backstory. He was recruited by Bo Davis. Bo Davis left to go to the Saints. And then he played for Kyle Williams this past season. And then, obviously he's not there anymore. So all of his ties are gone to LSU. And so he enters the portal. And this was just a massive pickup at a position of need from a depth standpoint. And I think Buddy Mathis represents depth with tremendous upside. Lindsay, I love this edition. This is one of my favorite editions of this portal class.
I was talking to Brad Law on Friday over on the Barn.
Yes.
And one of the scouting reports that we had made us a lot of comparison to a guy like a Montravius Adams. Wow. Mathis is a little bit smaller, 285, but, and I think I liked it more of like a Grady Jarrett comparison, but a guy, great quickness, great burst, can shoot through the line, he's not trying to plug a gap. He's trying to blow up a gap.
Yeah.
And I feel like in Auburn's defense under Durkin, guys like this do really well next to a big nose, right? The nose is taking 2 gaps and then they can shoot through if the play's to their side and just blow up a play completely. And worst case scenario, they're disrupting everything so the linebacker can come in and fill up. I like it a lot. I also love the fact that, like, hey, LSU's put out some pretty good defensive linemen, and this is a dude they were not happy to lose. Like, okay, that's a selling point for me. It'd be different if it was somebody who entered the portal but never played and they didn't really care about him. They were like, yeah, whatever, we don't care. They didn't like losing him, which is a selling point because they've been pretty decent on the defensive line in recent years.
Right. Yeah, so I love this move. Still, like, my question about the interior D line, it's still young, and that might just be something that they're going with. Your lone senior right now is Cody Sigler, which is an addition that I loved. And then St. Farrier is a junior. So both those guys coming from a lower level of competition to the SEC, still excited about it. But those right now, from a veteran standpoint, are your leaders. We'll see what happens with the UNC defensive lineman. That may happen. If it happens late tonight, I'll put up a show at some point on Monday about it. But there seems to be chatter about Auburn picking him up. And that would be, arguably the biggest non-USF portal addition of the cycle if that were to happen. Say that with high praise.
Yep.
But then, Walter Mathis, Malik Osprey, Jordan Crawford, Darian Smith, all true sophomores. And then you sign Corey Wells, who I think can play as a true freshman. And then Tavion Branch. We'll see how he fits in. But solid upside, just young. That's my biggest question about this group so far.
I want to put you on the spot just real quick. Did not tell you I was going to do this. Great. But in 3 years, when we look back at this, we got Walter Mathis from LSU. Right. They got Malik Blockton, who transferred over to LSU from Auburn.
Yeah.
Looking back at this in a couple seasons, who won the trade?
I think Malik Blockton's a better player.
Okay. All right. It's worth asking.
Yeah. And once again, I don't take anything away from Buddy Mathis, but I do, like, we've seen Malik already be really good. We've seen, LSU, there's glimpses of Mathis being a stud, but he hasn't put it, he hasn't really had the opportunity to put it all together. So yeah, I would say, Auburn's D-line, I don't think is as good as it was last year. They've done a good job of upgrading a few positions.
Losing Kendrick Falk's a big part of that.
Has done that. Yeah. But I love the upside in the room for sure. All right. And then at edge, Deshaun Womack from Ole Miss. I love that he's played all across the defensive line. He's played at end. He's played at edge. He's played, technically an outside linebacker with him scooted out a little bit wider. And that's what Auburn needs in this room. Like, you feel good about Jared Smith, then I have questions about everybody else in the room. Nate Johnson from Mizzou. Okay. I liked him at App State. I like his stuff from App State more than Mizzou, but he just kind of got buried. And, Mizzou is pretty good at that position. Joe Phillips coming back. Like, we all like the idea of Joe Phillips. We just haven't seen Joe Phillips. And then JJ Falk and Chris Wells. We'll see how they fit into it. But I think Deshaun Womack, I think it makes sense. Positional versatility we could view him as a starter by the time the season starts. So I like that. I like that addition a lot. And he's a senior. I like that too. So let him come in, mentor some of these young guys, but this is a guy who's going to play.
Yeah. He's got this one season, get it done. And I like the ability to hand off to the next group. Theoretically, it's going to work. We'll see what happens. We know Womack, Johnson.
Yeah.
I do kind of hate. I wish you could have found a way to keep Amaris Williams and Jamonta Waller. I know that happens, but I do like the potential in the room behind Womack and Johnson. I do still feel like, you've got 6 guys when you count JJ Falk in there. I feel like you got 6 guys. I still worry if you lose one of those 2 seniors, if one of them goes down. And we've seen this before, right? Who's the third pass rusher? We've had this conversation before where it's like you needed somebody to step up after an injury, and you got lucky when it did. I'm trying to think of exactly who it was last time.
Well, I think Jared Smith, the sophomore, is the most important guy. Then probably Deshaun Womack. And then almost by default, it's Nate Johnson, then Joe Phillips, and JJ Falk. Then, I don't think Chris Wells plays. So I think that's kind of what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd love more guys like that for sure.
Yeah.
I'm there with you. Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look at some of these defensive backs that I think represent a lot of depth, which is also kind of what you lost in some sense as well. That's next right here on Locked on Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress of guesswork. Instead of spending hours and hours trying to figure out forms, you can just meet with a local TurboTax expert in person, or you can connect online. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Final few minutes on today's edition of Locked on Auburn. Lindsay Crosby hanging out with us. Two interesting additions to the defensive back room over the course of the weekend. Jack Luttrell, the safety, played a lot of free safety at Arizona last year, but they moved him around. He played some slot corner, and then they put him in the box as well. And then Scrap Richardson, who is fascinating for a different reason. Let's start with Luttrell just because we've seen him play. And we know Scrap is from Notre Dame, if I didn't mention that. So Luttrell, what he did at Arizona, they moved him around, but primarily free safety. And I think this is a depth addition and a guy who's played a decent amount of football. But he will be a junior. So veteran depth in the defensive backfield. You lost some of that already. You replace it. I think this makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. I feel like every good Auburn defense has that guy who can do a bunch of different things. And he's not going to start for you, but he's a guy that if you need somebody mid-game, hey, this dude got thrown out for targeting. Hey, this dude went down with an ankle, knee, whatever. He's a guy who can step in there and he can get you through the rest of the game. And what I do like, I'm thinking about how on offense, Golesh likes to go incredibly fast. And so you need like tight ends who can both block and catch and all of that. I feel like he's a piece, the type of guy that helps you against tempo teams.
Yeah.
Because he can do different things from a snap to snap basis. And I feel like that's a skill that Durkin is going to need on the defense for tempo teams. Now, obviously, you want it to be somebody who's a starter and not him, but he does give you that versatility of he can fill in multiple different spots. He can do different things from snap to snap, and maybe he'll surprise us and just end up being fantastic. But I think right now he's just a really high quality backup.
Yeah, and another junior safety that they brought in earlier in the process, his name is Fred Gaskin, I think can also do that. I think you can ask him to do different things. Once again, his name is Fred Gaskin. So that's Jack Luttrell of Arizona, formerly of Arizona, now an Auburn Tiger. All right, from Notre Dame, Scrap Richardson is interesting.
Yes,
because,
for like 5 reasons.
First off, his name is Scrap, which objectively is great.
Can we point out his government is Antavius, but he goes by Scrap? And to the point where he is now listed on all of the sites as Scrap.
Correct. That's his name.
He does have a different government. This is not his government, but yeah, it's great.
So
Scrap.
It seems like Auburn is asking him to play DB, which is interesting because he played receiver at Notre Dame. Didn't play, but he was a receiver.
Yeah.
At Notre Dame.
In high school, he was a quarterback, a running back, and a safety. He had 800 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns and 54 tackles and a fumble recovery. So he's been the two-way kind of guy. Oh, he also has he was a state champion as a junior in track. Very fast.
So that lines I was texting some of my Notre Dame guys. Said Scrap played wide receiver at Notre Dame, but in his high school film at DB was impressive. What he showed in his one season at Notre Dame was impressive. Long speed, and outstanding agility. He's a fluid athlete that gets to full speed in a hurry. Scrap has to get stronger, but he has legit talent to be a P4 starter on either side of the ball in time. So there we go.
He's the prototypical athlete recruit.
Yep. I'll take it.
Can do a lot of different things. Yeah. Flexibility.
Tyler Wojak of Locked On Irish says, very under the radar prospect out of high school, tons of excellent traits. He just has to figure out a position that is best for him and commit to it. Notre Dame liked him at receiver. So
there you go. We have him as of now at cornerback, and we lost 5 guys at corner. So like, it makes sense that you're slotting him there for right now. You brought in a ton of wide receivers. So makes sense.
Yeah,
but it's also good to know
that I wonder if you give him reps at both. That'd be fun to see.
I was about to say, it feels like with a name like Scrap, you got to make him your gadget guy. He has some time at quarterback and running back in high school. So if you use him a little bit on offense, there's trick play potential in there. This is the kind of signing that on its face doesn't do a lot for your ceiling, but depending on how you use him, he can be surprisingly impactful down the line because he can do so. He's just another example like Luttrell, the dude, he can do so many different things, especially if you are an incredibly fast offense who uses pace a lot. He can line up in Wildcat and throw it and run it and whatever. He can kick out to wide receiver. You have a lot of options here. I'm thinking about how the Saints have terrorized my Falcons with Taysom Hill for like half a decade now.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, just from a roster management standpoint, Scrap and Devin Williams, the lone 2 redshirt freshmen on this roster. And so like, just looking ahead with the makeup of this, because they're going to lose a lot after the season.
Yeah.
Scrap, Devin Williams, DeMonte Tab, Wayne Henry, kind of your redshirt freshman / true freshman going into the season, just from a number standpoint, worth monitoring for sure. So we'll go more in depth on these guys throughout the week. We just needed to kind of share our thoughts about this, but all of these guys have a chance to impact this roster, which is super, super exciting. Lindsay, how can people check out everything that you have going on?
The Atlanta Braves stuff, bravestoday.com, the Braves Today podcast. We're talking about the Hassan Kim injury, just kills there. The Auburn baseball stuff, thebarnauburn.com.
Should we announce it?
We announced it over on The Barn. We're bringing back the Barn Baseball Show. It is official for 2026. It will be.
Should we announce what we're doing here? I haven't said anything about it.
We have not yet announced it over here. We can go ahead and do that too.
We're going to go live like we do for every Auburn football game and Auburn basketball game. There will be an Auburn baseball postgame show here after every Auburn baseball game this season. That is our goal. Looking forward to that.
It'll be you.
There will be one. A lot of them will be me and Lindsay. Some of them might be me and Daryl. Some of them might be Lindsay and Daryl. Some of them might just be me. But regardless, that is our goal, to bring you post game after every Auburn baseball game right here on Locked On Auburn. I'm excited
because Butch deserves it. And honestly, I would argue right now, the most accomplished head coach on Auburn's campus, Butch Thompson.
I don't even think there's an argument.
It's number 1.
I don't even think there's an argument.
Nope.
I also think Auburn fans are going to focus a lot on Auburn baseball because they're going to want to feel something.
Yes, because basketball is not doing their part right now. Yeah, I get it. I feel it. It happens. So listen, folks, we're going to be there for you. We got tons of stuff coming this year.
Yes.
We're going to give you what you want.
All the mentors in this space say, meet the fans where they are. We're doing it. Dang it. We are
y'all are at baseball. We're going to be there too.
Yep, absolutely. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.